It's 6:15 around the table today from the Smiths. We have Morrissey. You looked very good on whistle test the other day.
Oh, thank you.
It was very well put together.
It was camera work.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Corcoran. Howard Jones, Tom Jones, I nearly said. That was a Freudian slip. How are you doing, Howard, all right?
Very well, thank you.
And the record is looking successful at the moment, too. All right, we'll talk more about what you're doing recording-wise later. And John Peel is here, too.
Following a gig in Swansea last night. That was terrific.
Were you really?
They loved me.
This is why you're wearing red.
Always.
Something to do with Liverpool. Shall we get down to a bit of rock and roll?
If we must.
ZZ Top. That could be the third hit single for ZZ Top from the album Eliminator. That's their new one, Legs, which, according to the Biog, is accompanied by an eye-catching video starring furry guitars, shades, beards, and a host of buxom Texan wenches. Rather like the others, I suppose, really. Morrissey.
With records like this, there's a language barrier for me. I can't really begin to confront them. I can't really begin to assess them. I don't know what they're about. I don't understand them. So really, even if I listen intently, I find that I don't understand a word. And I've seen the sleeve, and it's absurd.
What, the sort of sexism of it?
Well, it's just an enormous pair of legs,
yeah,
which is very crafty indeed. I'm sure it'll fox everybody. Not for me, Richard.
All right, thank you very much. Howard Jones, have you seen the videos, Howard?
Yes, I have, yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I like the furry guitars that go round.
That's clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what about the image of the guys?
Well,
sort of Father Abraham look.
Yeah, it's got some kind of eccentric appeal, I suppose. I think that's why they've done well in Britain, because the music is very sort of backward-looking, really. It's amazing that the drummer manages to sound like a drum machine, although I know he's playing it all, but he's like exactly on the on the beat and everything. I don't have mixed feelings about them. I don't think this is as good as their other singles. I'm not really a fan of that kind of music.
All right, John, have you ever liked ZZ Top? I mean, they've been around now for, 10, 12 years or so?
Yes, even longer than me. Yeah. Well, no, that's not true, actually. I don't know what it was. I played the first one, which is called something like Francine, the first single I ever made. Played that. But I've not played anything since.
And you are going back to something like 71.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
No, I think this is terrible stuff. And yet all of a sudden they've become like the awful... They suddenly become hip in a kind of extraordinary way, which I don't begin to understand at all. And you get all of those reviews which start off good old Southern fried boogie, which is the kind of thing which has me flinging the music papers into the bin, Just awful stuff, I think it is. And the imagery is just... It's just...
obvious.
Yes, well, loutish, really.
Is it going to be a hit?
Probably.
I think you're right. That's Legs, that's ZZ Top. The Lotus Eaters next. It Hurts. It's the Lotus Eaters and their new one called It Hurts. And this is Howard Jones, who... Actually, you've been concentrating really hard on that all the way through.
Yeah, well, it's the only chance you get to hear these records, so I want to give them a good chance. I actually like that very much. I think they're a band that... sort of haven't had as much success as perhaps they should have.
Do you think they've been underestimated, or
yeah, perhaps? I mean, but I find this record really is very pleasant. I couldn't get what the words are about because I always like to assess a song on what the people are trying to say, so I can't comment on that. But I thought it was a really nice song.
John Peel, Liverpool rules, eh? Or
yes,
what?
I once had the worst Indian meal I've ever had in my life with one of the Lotus Eaters, when he was in a band called the Jazz Babies. I'm not sure about how it's very pleasant. I mean, very pleasant. It's one of those things like saying something's interesting, you know what I mean? I've been punched in the face. It couldn't be worse. In a curious way. Yeah. But it's...
I do mean it in a kind of...
Yes, I know you do, yes, I know. It's I'd like it to be better than it is, in a way. But when it's over, you don't retain a great deal of it, I think.
Are you saying that you think it's interesting in the sense that you were saying,
No, I mean, I think when it's over... No, I think when it's over... Perhaps I need to hear it a few more times. I know that's the usual cop-out in these programmes, but, I mean, having heard it through the once, I don't remember very much about it.
Morrissey?
Well, as far as I can assess, it seems that the general rule and the iron rule in popular music in 1985 is that if you're going to make records, and if you're going to sing, and if you're going to write, whatever you do, don't do it like the Lotus Eaters. It seems to be that way, and I agree with it. I find such blandness. I mean, it's terrible to use these words, but one is forced to. I'm convinced it's a skill.
What is it? Is it a lack of commitment that they're turning into a skill?
I think that their dedication in life is certainly elsewhere. It has to be.
It's 5 to 6. That was the Lotus Eaters. Take some members of Special AKA, UB40 and Madness, and get them to record together for Oxfam and War on Want. They call themselves Starvation. The song, Starvation. I love it. What a distinctive voice there. Starvation is the name of the group, members of Special AKA, UB40 and Madness, working together for Oxfam and War on Want. Starvation is the name of the song as well. OK, so, John Peel, what about it as a song?
Yes, it is a problem, isn't it, to detach it from the motives behind the making of it, which are obviously laudable. I would prefer it, I think, though, if people were to donate the proceeds from records that they've already made to these causes, because the records themselves, of course, there have not been a great many of them, but so far they've been put together by a committee, one feels that, and the lyrics of this were a rather melting pot. I think for those of you who remember that, probably my least favourite record of all time, I think, was Blue Mink's Melting Pot, which is, whenever you hear an oldie on Radio 1, that's what it is, extraordinary.
Drink a pinch of what?
Yes, I hated it. Yeah. And there's an element of that about the lyrics too, but, I mean, the other side of it, actually, is wonderful, by Tam Tam, with people like Sunny a Day on. Yeah. It's terrific. It's a record you hardly dare criticise, though.
Although it was fascinating at the Pop Awards this week to hear Bob Geldof talking about the fact that in 20 years' time, he wanted not to be one of the guilty people. I mean, is this a case of the industry desperately trying to get away from guilt, do you think? The guilt of earning money or whatever?
Well, I don't see. I think the trouble is with somebody in Bob Geldof's position, he's going to find himself something rather like the reformed alcoholic. You know, where it becomes like an evangelical.
The born again.
That's right, and there have to be certain events in certain contexts in which you don't immediately relate to the starving people in Ethiopia. You know, I mean, you can't relate absolutely everything to it.
All right, Morrissey, what about the record then?
Yes, I found it very uplifting, which seems to perhaps go against the grain of the message, but perhaps not. And I like it for that reason. Yes, I thought it was very tuneful.
The thing about recording records for charity?
Yes, I think sometimes it's admirable and sometimes it's suspect. Certainly if the record's completely tuneless, it's absolutely defeats the object, surely.
There's a lovely smile on the face here as you say that, but I won't press you on it. Do you think that this one actually succeeds on every level? In terms of being an admirable cause and a decent tune as well?
Yes, I think it does, yes. I'm convinced that it does.
Howard Jones, complete with hat.
Yeah. I do like it very much. I think it's a great thing to try and do. And they've managed to combine it with a great song, and it sounds very good.
Here's Prince, who you met, or didn't meet, maybe, Howard, the other day at those Rock Awards.
He whisked past me.
We all saw him. We'll talk about that after we hear his former American #1, which finally Warner Brothers, for whatever reason, after so many weeks, has put out. This is Let's Go Crazy. Let's Go Crazy, as I say, a #1 in America some months ago, and people have been wanting it to come out as a single. Morrissey, Prince, what about him?
I think he's quite laughably overrated, I'm afraid. I find it very fake, very Hollywood, and I virtually slept through the climactic ending, I'm afraid. No.
Did you like his earlier stuff? I mean, like the current hit, 1999, or Little Red Corvette, in terms of
not to a small degree. Not on a small degree, no. I can't hear anything. I can't hear a thing. I'm deaf.
Right. Oversold for Morrissey. Howard Jones, who maybe didn't meet him the other night at the awards.
Well, he and his bodyguard sort of brushed past our table, and everyone was like pulling their chairs in.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
2 bodyguards, this enormous guy like giant haystacks in front.
Yeah.
And the other guy behind.
Yes, I think it maybe is what rock and roll used to be about, but isn't anymore.
Well, it's what it never was it? I mean, was it really?
Well, that's why it's so much liked in America, and I thought, I mean, going back to the record,
yeah,
I find the guitar thing at the end incredibly cliched and sort of very backward looking.
That's probably why it works, though. Sure. Yeah.
So it's like an outtake from Into the Music. Right?
Yeah. Oh, how's Tommy tonight? Yes. Right.
What he actually said at the awards, I thought was okay. You know, the actual things he said, although he spoke very quietly.
Everybody has the right just to say, I'm not a communicator, I'm a man of few words, that's fine, but this ridiculous image that he seems to be building up around him surely could rebound very easily.
I don't think it works in Britain very well, because people People like
but
to...
it does sell records, though.
Well, people
Yeah.
laugh, do they? I mean, were people amused by it? Because I went to bed, actually, I didn't see the awards, but were people amused by it, or were they intimidated by it?
I think both, because I've talked to people who thought it was fabulous and everything, and I've talked to people who just really hated him because he was so aloof and wouldn't even look at the people who presented him the awards.
Right, and he won't shake hands with anybody, will he? He won't let anybody touch him and all that. I think the man is totally misinterpreting the United Kingdom, but maybe we misinterpret it. Is it going to be a hit for him in this country, do you think, Howard? Even
Yes,
with its overblown ending?
I think it will be a hit.
Yeah. What do you think, John?
Well, after what you've been saying, it sounds as though he's totally misinterpreting life, actually, rather than just the United Kingdom. But I'm with Morrissey on this. I'd actually written down Holy Spurious Good Time Atmosphere, because I thought it was kind of a good thing to say, which just about summed up the middle bit of it, anyway. And Gambaccini said of one of the Prince LPs, something like, this is the most important LP of the 80s, or one of those rather overblown statements that were all given to making from time to time. And I went back and listened to the things again, and they still sounded completely devoid of any character or atmosphere. That's it.
All right, well, let's move to something that I know you have a connection with, John. This is a single by Terry and Jerry, who started out, they did a session for you for a very peculiar reason.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, this, but it's as you know, get an enormous number of demo tapes in, about sort of 20, 25 a day. And it's impossible, I mean, physically impossible to listen to them all.
Started out, they did a session for you for a very peculiar reason.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, this, but it's as you know, get an enormous number of demo tapes in, about sort of 20, 25 a day. And it's impossible, I mean, physically impossible to listen to them all. I listen to as many as I can, but... and I saw one on the top of a pile by Terry and Jerry. Now, my wife, whose nickname is the Pig, when she was at... there's a reason for it. It's affectionate name. Yeah. But anyway, when she was at Teachers Training College in Roehampton, her two best mates were called Terry and Jerry. And so I thought, well, I've got to listen to that. And I did, and I thought they were most entertaining. And the lyrics of their songs, had some kind of bite to them. And so we booked them for a session.
Right, well, this is their current single, Terry and Jerry, on the excellent In Tape label. This is Clothes Shop. A bit of bass there. That's Clothes Shop, Terry and Jerry. Howard Jones.
Is it me? Well,
yes, you're on, Howard.
It's so difficult. I mean, I always feel really... I was just talking to Morrissey. I find it very difficult to actually say anything negative about people because I know how seriously people take it. So I had to apologise about that.
Come on.
Well, I actually liked it. I mean, it's so difficult. I mean, you're just hearing it, and you're not even hearing the whole record. So it's very hard.
Well, we did hear the whole record. We missed the last 5 seconds or so, which because when the microphone turns on to tell people at home, the speakers here go dead so that we don't get whistles and things. But you missed nothing, honest.
Right. But I quite liked it. I mean, I didn't go nuts over it, but it was okay. It was okay, all right.
Yeah. John Peel, I mean, you were talking about good time music, spurious good time music. Mm-hmm. Isn't this real good time music? It's sort of genuine performance.
Yes, I think so. I mean, obviously, to go back to Prince, he would find that absolutely incomprehensible, I think. He couldn't understand why it had been made. I mean, there would be no point in that record which coincided with anything in his life and his motivation. But, I just like it because I just like it there. That's the best I can do.
Morrissey.
It's baffling because I find it quite mildly excellent, but why? I don't know why. I don't know.
Maybe we're being too intellectual about all this,
Mysterious.
At the end of the day.
It's the most mysterious record I've ever heard. I love it, but don't ask me why.
Are you a skiffle fan, Morrissey?
I'm not.
A Lonnie Donegan aficionado?
Well, I know the Cumberland Gap, but I'm not dedicated, no. Not dedicated.
Our John Walters, our producer, loves the skiffle, But we won't talk about that now. Here's Alvin Stardust. Got a little heartache. I bet he has, too. That's a new one from Shane Fenton under his new recording name of Alvin Stardust. That is Got a Little Heartache. John Peel.
Well, it's appalling, obviously, but it's one of those things where you find yourself tapping your toes to it as it goes by. And we were having a rather highfalutin conversations went on about the potency of cheap music.
That's right, because that Buddy Holly thing he did, which I hated, I then found myself whistling.
That's right, well, that's the thing, you see. You find yourself walking down Oxford Street or something when you should be whistling tracks on the new Smiths LP. and you find yourself whistling that instead, people turning around and looking at it. So it's a killer.
Right. Morrissey, do you find yourself whistling to Alvin Stardust?
Almost never. I think he's somebody who should have really stopped making records about 135 years ago, or whenever it was that he began. I find it quite desperate. I believe that his new LP is actually called I Wish I Was Alvin Stardust, which hints of some slight desperation. I think it should be deleted. Delete this record today.
Howard.
No, I didn't like it at all. Sorry, Alvin.
A man of few words today, you are, aren't you?
I am, really.
What are you doing? What's keeping you busy at the moment?
Well, just finished the new album.
When is that out?
It's out in March.
Radical change. I mean, you had this big band that played with you on Whistle Test the other week. I mean, is this the new lineup? Is this the new lineup?
No, it was just for that single. I put brass and some girl backing singers on it. But the band I'm taking out on the road is just the three of us and Jed. So it's, keeping it like a bass, organ, drums trio.
And on record, it's still very much you, isn't it? Because
yeah.
Multi-instrumentalist Howard Jones.
Well, you can do most things with keyboards these days, so, it's nice.
Except for brass. Well, you can do brass as well, of course. All right, so the album out again?
In the middle of March.
And it's called?
Dream into Action.
Thank you very much.
I was having to say, I'd love to be Howard If only.
Hey, this is another one that bloody Peel's been playing, isn't it? Reds and the Boys. What's this about?
Well, it's really
one of these American. You're really into this go-go thing.
Well, it's really embarrassing because, in a sense, I'm not at all. A terrible old fraud. But it's something. It's something that I've known nothing about. It's been going on for years, and really
10 years at least.
Well, that's right. Yes, and really hip people like what's it, Jay Strongman or something. Is that his name? Who's been playing it in the clubs and things for years. And so the first smell you get of it, you sort of think, hey, this is terrific, and you start playing it, and everyone says you're jumping on a bandwagon, which of course you are, really. But it is good, because I'm just so fed up with all of the, it's just exciting music again.
It's very genuine performance, isn't it? Reds and the Boys, and this one is called Movin' and Groovin'. Yes, they're moving and grooving. That's Reds and the Boys, and a bit of go-go music. Washington, D.C. is the place where it comes from. Morrissey.
Well, as someone who preaches a creed of total inaction, I find the idea of...
moving and grooving.
I mean, how does one groove? I don't know. I wouldn't like to attempt this, really. So I'll pass it on to somebody else. Howard?
Here's Howard Jones.
Okay. Yeah, I actually thought that was good. I like that. Did you like it?
Yeah, but so he's not on yet. All right, he's not on yet.
Right.
It had a groove, Howard, did it?
It did. Yeah. I thought it seemed a bit old-fashioned slightly. I mean, those synth sounds and everything like that.
That's the point.
So it's like it is sort of retrospective, moving and grooving.
The word groove. Does anybody say that anymore?
Well, actually, it's very funny. We had the Bee Gees on the show a while back, and they
said it a lot.
They kept saying that record's got a groove.
Well, I think that requires explanation.
Does it? It grooves for you, John? I mean, on what basis does it work for you? Because it is derivative.
Yes,
totally derivative.
Yes. Well, I do all my moving and grooving internally. I've internalised this whole business, so you can't see any outward and visible sign of my moving and grooving, but it goes on. And it's in a noble tradition of like ludicrous lyrics, so imbecile lyrics. But all that. I prefer to that kind of. Really macho, you're my woman, grab hold of some interesting part of me kind of lyric, that you tend to get on a lot of contemporary soul things. And I like the idea of listing all the towns, too, which used to be a big thing in the 60s when I lived in America. To guarantee radio...
You mean I've been everywhere, ma'am?
To guarantee radio play in each town that you mentioned. Dragging in all these little places like Cut and Shoot, New Mexico, just to make sure they got radio play there. But it's in a noble tradition, and I think it's terrific. And, I would like to hear it played at immense volume in a club, whereas a great deal of contemporary soul music, I wouldn't, really.
But, John, isn't the whole thing a hype? Here's the situation, that these people have been making this music for 10 years or more in Washington, D.C., and a desperate record industry grabs this sound and markets it.
No, there's a difference. It is itself not a hype,
no,
but it is being
in this
hyped.
country it is being hyped.
No, it is being hyped. I mean, it itself is what it is, you know. I mean, it exists independently there, but it is being hyped. On the other hand, I'd sooner have that than a great deal of the muck that we're, obliged to listen to.
Here's Hazell Dean.
Thank you. Well timed.
Hazell Dean, who apparently was the biggest selling female artist in this country last year. That's her new single, No Fool for Love. Now, I hate these press releases we get. Here's one from Proto Records for Hazell Dean, which ends on this sentence, and think about what it says. Proto Records are mounting a full-scale marketing campaign to ensure that Hazell Dean remains one of Britain's best-loved performers. What does that mean? Howard Jones.
Well, I don't know what Hazell would say if she...
Hazell is a great lady. I'm not knocking Hazell Dean as a person.
If she read that, she'd probably sort of feel a bit embarrassed.
She's probably feeling embarrassed.
Yeah.
Anyway, the record.
I don't know. I don't really want to sort of say much about the record.
What?
if that's okay. But actually, what I want to say is that I find it difficult to imagine artists sort of singing songs that really don't have much meaning at all. Like the whole reason I do and say the things I do is because I want to communicate something. I want to say something, and at least be at the least point to be sort of disagreed with. And with songs with lyrics like this, it leaves everyone cold. It doesn't do anything for anyone. So that's really what I want to say.
All right, John.
Yes, it's one of those records which is going to, when you hear it on the radio, it's going to sound longer than it actually is. I'll have me looking to see if I'm in an area where you can pick up the BBC World Service.
And Morrissey.
Well, I find this quite mildly unreviewable. The question that's stitched to my lips is it really humanly possible to be more vacuous?
It's very difficult to follow that, isn't it, really? That's Hazell Dean, No Fool for Love is the single. OK, we'll be back in about a minute's time with a new single released from Julian Lennon. That's after the news with Ian Parkinson. It's new, it's Julian Lennon and Say You're Wrong, John Peel.
I think we may have just had the answer to Morris's question. Is it possible to be more wholly vacuous?
Really? I mean, you feel it is that lacking in any
that
solo?
Hellish guitar solo at the end really did it completely. But I mean, it's... I'd hate to be... Having said that, I'd hate to be in his position. I mean, it's... what a complex...
I think he's aware of the fact that being who he is has opened doors, but he's also desperate to succeed on his own terms.
Yes, but I mean, in a sense, he can't, because there's always going to be the record industry is always going to be capitalising on the doesn't he look, stroke, doesn't he sound like his dad? And I feel desperately sorry for him, to be honest, but it's still a rotten record.
Morrissey.
Well, I don't want to sound too snotty about this, but I think it's just simply another record which proves that Julian Lennon is somewhat of an unchallenged non-entity. It mystifies me. There's nothing there whatsoever. It's the kind of thing that Rolling Stone magazine will adore, and he will get streams and streams of American publicity. But it's totally foxed me. His success has totally foxed me.
What does he lack for you?
Virtually everything, really. I think it's just the blindly devoted people to John Lennon, who simply follow him. And I think that's critically wrong. He must be absolutely aware of it. For instance, there's nothing in this record whatsoever that could really mean anything to anybody.
Why is it that he was voted, according to Smash Hits magazine last year, most promising newcomer? I remember him on the front page.
I'll never believe that. He was on the front page of quite a few of those magazines.
Yeah.
I'll never believe it. It's something that's beyond the realms of comprehension. You must agree, Richard. You must agree.
Yes,
yes, you do, Richard.
I do. And I have this minor problem, as we were talking about this, the problem of this show is that we meet the people and discover they're charming, pleasant people, but
don't
I do
meet
agree.
Them, Richard. Stay at home.
I'll stay at home. I won't talk to them anymore. Howard Jones.
Well, I agree with John that he's got a bit of a problem, because he looks like his father and sounds exactly like his father.
Yeah.
The only and also he's got a definite ability to write good songs, good melodies. But the thing that I find that he lacks is his father's lyrical bite, which I mean,
as far as lyrical bite, it evaporated completely, though, hadn't it, latterly? I mean, that last LP and that last series of singles and so on, I mean, if they would have sold nothing and been quite meaningless if his father hadn't been
The
shot.
album, in fact, the last album, the last real album, wasn't selling very much until the shooting.
And then, of course, we radio and DJs rallied round and made him the most significant rock artist of the year because he'd been shot. It seemed to me to be...
Come on, John. That was because of what he'd done before, not because of that bloody album. He said it twice.
That's the second time you said
yes,
that.
I have. Yeah. It's called Because I Care About It.
Okay.
He says desperately.
At his worst, I think John Lennon, even with his sort of his love songs, they still sounded convincing.
Yes.
I mean, and this as a love song doesn't sound convincing at all to me.
Here's a song that was a hit for Ann Peebles years ago. This is Tina Turner and her version of I Can't Stand the Rain. I Can't Stand the Rain. And that's her new single, Morrissey.
I think the song is very clever. I like the song.
You remember it from before?
Yes, I certainly do. I certainly do. But Tina Turner, I don't know what happened to Tina Turner. I presume she fell on her head or something. But when she became enormously massive, for me...
What, in terms of success or size?
Well, yes, her waistline as well. When she became absolutely massive, she didn't really she seemed to have become quite synthetic about everything that she did, which is quite tragic. I think her history is quite inspiring, but now she doesn't mean a sausage.
This, of course, is from the album that was recorded here with British performers and British producers and things.
I wonder why. She seems to have really raced away from her roots, which to me it seems absolutely damaging. This is a brilliant song. She has a brilliant voice, but for some curious reason, it doesn't mean a thing.
Howard Jones.
Right. Well, I actually like this record very much. I mean, it's difficult again because I've met her and I really like her as a person, and through all the kind of sexy image, she is trying to get something over. She's a fervent Buddhist. And,
really, I had no idea of that.
Howard, don't you feel that the image has really completely overtaken her voice and her initial intentions?
Well, I know it's very. I mean, if you're working in the sort of pop world, you have to adopt certain rules of it, and I still think you can have the intentions at the back of your mind to do things and to change things from the inside, and I would hope that is the case with Tina Turner. And as a person, I really like her, and I think she's got a great voice. And also I know quite a lot about her because Rupert produced some of the tracks.
Rupert Hine, yes, on the LP.
Produced some tracks on the album, and I said that I'd like to play some keyboards on her next album because he's doing half of it. So I'll tell you what I find out. Okay.
Right. Did you think it was a good experience, or a good experiment maybe, for her to come over to this country and do this here? Because she wanted to get involved with the younger generation, the new scheme of things, so to speak.
Yeah, it is. I think it's good. It's people look to the things that are coming up and the new things, and not like sticking with a load of old American stuff with backward-looking views, etc.
She's going to be working with Dave Stewart from Eurythmics, actually, because he's written a song with her. Yeah,
Dave works with everyone.
And the Ramones, of course. Yes, he has. Okay, John Peel, what about this?
Yes, well, I think the message that we get from conversations we've been having really is that meeting people is wrong, because it makes it impossible.
I mean, it colours what we say.
It's bound to, because you can't, you don't want to, if you're going to meet them again, you want to slag off their stuff, and you're sympathetic towards it anyway. And what Morrissey said about her history being inspiring, I mean, quite clearly, she was, for most of her life, was ruthlessly exploited by Ike Turner, and because she was a woman, and by other people because she was black. And so I wish her well from that point of view. And also, she got into that sort of Rolling Stones coterie at one stage, and was like the token black woman doing rock songs. I mean, Creedence Clearwater Revival songs. But that notwithstanding, this record is horrendous, I think, because the original version of it, the Ann Peebles one, and I'm not one who has any particular feeling for original versions because they're original versions, but it's a record of
it's very
quite
subtle,
extraordinary sensitivity and great subtlety, and this just destroys all of that, and all of the good things about the song are obliterated, and it's very depressing.
Here's a band you'll probably have a few more positive things to say about. This is Jesus and Mary Chain, Never You're listening to Round Table. Our guest today, Morrissey from the Smiths, Howard Jones, John Peel, and that was the Jesus and Mary chain, Maisie chain, what was it? Never Understand. It is called Howard Jones.
Well, there's this curious sound that goes all the way through the record that I think must be calculated to sort of irritate the ear, because it's like a chainsaw on a piece of metal all the way through. I don't know what the song's about. What are they trying to say?
What do you feel, John?
No, well, I mean, you see, I sense it here. It's time for me to play my kind of Jeff Boycott role. I stay at the crease and just push the ball back down the wicket time and time again. I mean, I like the band very, very much indeed, and I've said this in private, so I might as well say it publicly. To me, there is. You mentioned Status Quo earlier on. Of course, the band will hate me for this.
I didn't say it on the air, but off the air, I likened them to ZZ Top.
But there's a kind of the same element about this that I found attractive years ago about Status Quo, in that underneath all of the kind of repetitive thrashing, there was the element of an identifiable tune, and so it is with this lot, and also they're confrontational. I mean, and that sounds terribly pompous kind of stuff to say, but I like that. They're rather like, because at a time when things are getting terribly bland and safe, and and the marketing people who actually control which records you hear, by and large. I like the idea of a band coming along and really do throw the gauntlet down. I'm not just saying this because it's here, but also I think the Smiths do the same thing lyrically, and this band are doing it just by irritating music. I mean, they compare the idea of a chainsaw and metal is fine. I like the idea of that. It's accurate.
But the basic song is like a Beach Boys tune.
Yes, it's quite a nice little tune.
Or a Ramones or something, yeah. All right, Morrissey, we were talking about you and your throwing the gauntlet down.
Yes, indeed.
Do you identify with this lot as well, then?
Yes, I do, in an inexplicable way. I think this is the kind of record that will quite generally annoy the public, and which is exactly why I'll buy it. Yes, I like it very much. The vocals, though, seem to be somewhat buried under a tent, which, of course, makes it more attractive.
They're doing all right, aren't they? The Jesus and Mary chain, and that's on the Blanco y Negro label, if people want to go and buy it. What?
I was going to say, yes, because they're the kind of band who, in 3 years' time, when we have these award ceremonies and things, will be being voted the band of the newcomers of the year.
Can we talk about the awards just for a second around this table? The award ceremony this week. What did you feel about it, John?
I didn't see it, to be honest with you, because I lost the programme as a result of it, so I went to bed rather sulkily.
Forgetting that bit.
Yes.
But, what did you feel about the way it went?
I don't know how it went.
All right, Howard Jones was there. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did, actually. But, I mean, because there was loads of sort of drink on our table, so I decided, and I was a chance to sort of meet a lot of people that I hadn't seen for a long time.
Records you're having to review.
What about the nature of the awards?
Well, I felt a bit embarrassed about being. It was like being back at school in a way that that people were being voted the top of the class sort of thing, which I think if that could be avoided, it would be much better.
It's the reasons why they voted it and who votes them there. I'm fascinated by it.
Morrissey. It was never really explained, was it?
Yeah. I mean, apart from the obvious, the Top of the Pops Award and the Radio 1 Award, which were listeners and viewers.
But the most ludicrous one I thought was the Sade Award, which, of course, is completely impossible. So that left me feeling massively suspicious about everything, and I simply switched it off.
I think if we have awards, we ought to vote for them ourselves, as opposed to, us as members of the public, as opposed to the industry clapping the back.
An orgy of self-congratulation.
Yes. Actually, I'll vote you top DJ, John, if you vote me, all right?
I always do.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Matt Bianco, here we go. That's Matt Bianco, More Than I Can Bear, the remix from their LP. And who should we get? John Peel. Yes, it's your sort of music, John.
Yes. Well, there was a line in there about torments me to distraction, and anybody who sounded less tormented is hard to imagine. But on the other hand, I must admit, having said that, I wouldn't switch it off.
It's very sophisticated, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm not a very sophisticated chap. I haven't got a figure for it, unfortunately.
Morrissey.
Well, I don't find Matt Bianco remotely offensive, which seems to almost immediately obliterate me as a sensible reviewer. I quite like it, in a strange, curious, perverse, inexplicable.
Yes, I found that.
Howard Jones.
Yes, I liked it as well.
Well, all right, yeah, we said be quick. Okay, here's a track from the new LP by Phil Collins, which is called No Jacket Required. This track features Peter Gabriel, Sting, Helen Terry. They're all here, you know. This is called Take Me Home.
Bad as that.
Yeah.
They've got to...
Take Me Home is the title of the track. That is a track from Phil Collins' new solo album, No Jacket Required. He does have a jacket, actually. We're okay. Morrissey, Phil Collins.
Well, yes. I'm afraid somebody like me, somebody like Phil Collins, is rather like the Yeti. It would take years of scientific study before I could begin to understand him. So I'll pass it on to...
He's a pretty good drummer as well as being a singer. You know,
well,
he knows his rhythm.
Doesn't
Hey,
matter.
a #1 LP next Tuesday, it looks like.
Well, it would be nice. Yes, it would be nice.
And the name of the album is...
It is indeed Meat is Murder.
And it's out even as we speak.
As we speak.
Thank you for coming today.
It's been enjoyable.
It's been good fun. Howard Jones, what about that?
Well, I just like to comment on the title of Morrissey's album, which I think is brilliant, and it's great for somebody to make such an upfront statement.
You are a vegetarian too?
Yeah, for 9 years, yeah, and
Okay.
I completely agree with the sentiment, and
Oh,
right on.
What more can you say? Here's another vegetarian. Here's John Peel.
that's true. I like Phil Collins because he gives some credibility to male pattern baldness, but the music, the music I'm not keen on, I must say.
All right, well, I'm off to have a good steak now. Here's, before we finish this, actually, I won't. I feel terrible to having
Horror.
Roland from Tears for Fears will be here next week. Bruno Brooks will be here next week. And David Cassidy.
Wow.
Yeah. Come on, girls. Come on down. Okay, here's Andy at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Rich. Cheers.